it a touch more louder then. Woo! That's it. Ready, mate?
They've locked us off our own steps. It should be a place that is a source of pride, it's the centre of a community, the seat of our democracy, and yet, look how they treat us. You know, and there's nobody in there at the moment apart from a wedding. You know, the mayor, the people who are responsible for this, they know we're here. The whole of Hackney knows we're here, Glanville certainly knows we're here, and the whole of London, I think, knows we're here by now. Town Hall, Clown Hall as some of us are calling it. Yeah! And I think that's sad that we do that. That we should be proud of it, as I say. But it's no longer for the community, it's against us. You can see the way they've locked us out is what they think of us. When Extinction Rebellion came here last year, they were out shaking their hands. They turned their backs on us. And we've seen how utterly ruthless they have been over the last year or so, tearing up our communities ruthlessly with their road closures and so-called LTN. So, the residents of Hackney, Islington and Tower Hamlets have got together to organise this demo with friends from far and wide. Hopefully it's the first in a series of things over the summer that will get us listened to and we'll get our way, sort of falling off this thing. And I think it's important that we connect up with people across the boroughs, and so many of us have got family and work and social connections. Go on now. Yeah, so many of us have got connections across the boroughs, families, and yet they want to shut us out. Crossing from Hackney to Islington, as you probably know, is like getting across the Berlin Wall these days. Perhaps they want to turn London into a medieval village. Yeah, they want to turn Hackney into a medieval village with us as the peasants and them as our masters. There's a new political elite in the town halls and in government, it seems. They want to take away our freedom of movement. They want to cut off our roads, hitting us with exorbitant fines. And with the zero carbon thing just around the corner that they're so obsessed with, they want to take away our cars, our holidays, and even our central heating if you're watching the news. They're really attacking our they're attacking our freedoms and our living standards of ordinary people. They're taking away everything they deem unnecessary, irresponsible. We are, you know, we can't have, not allowed to have our luxuries. Until we have nothing left, you know, they want us to be back like the Victorian poor of our great-great-grandparents. And we can't and we won't let that happen. And I think we're going to show that today. Okay, we've got some great speakers. A lineup of a real good mix of campaigners, residents, politicos, and even a lawyer. Horrendous Hackney road closures doesn't take a party political stance. We don't take a stance on environmentalism or any of those things. We're an anti-road closure campaign. So, but yeah, as I say, we've got lots of great speakers. The first one, first three you're going to hear for are representatives of the three of the groups who have helped pull this brilliant day off. Linda Wilkinson, who's speaking first, is a lifelong resident of Tower Hamlets. She's been a road campaigner, anti-road closure campaigner, since long before any of us, and it's a real pleasure to have her here.
Well, if you'd have asked me 2 years ago that I would be at war, I would have laughed at you. We're at war with the councils. Yeah. They have made our lives horrendous during a pandemic. Yes. They have treated us absolutely appallingly. Yes. Yes. They have taken the chance of this pandemic to stop our freedoms, to prohibit us moving around and prohibit us having a voice.
That's it.
In Tower Hamlets, we started this process before the pandemic. There were no equality assessments made. There was no chance of giving them any local knowledge. They simply wouldn't listen. It was all desktop planning. It was off the shelf from Waltham Forest. It was probably, we think, actually agreed in a drunken session in a pub in Waltham Forest.
How did you know?
There was no impact on special educational needs children, their buses, their transport, the vulnerable, the poor were not assessed, and statistics have constantly, as you all know, been completely manipulated to their own purposes and are frankly lies.
Yeah.
Emergency vehicles and freedom of information requests have shown that the emergency services are not happy, but however, unfortunately in London, the heads of the emergency services are predominantly ex-TfL executives, so you can figure that one out.
That's the problem.
So what have we had? In Tower Hamlets, I lived around Columbia Road where I was born, and my family had been in Tower Hamlets as it became for 400 years, guys, so I'm not an incomer, right? We've had increase in antisocial behaviour, drugs, car snatching, cars kicking in, windscreen smashed, robberies, home robberies, everything. We have got so much drug dealing on our little Jesus green that people actually cannot let their kids go and play there. It is absolutely unbelievable. I'm talking about the 52% majority of this country, women. They have not been considered at all. These streets are a nightmare, They're quiet, they're dangerous, they've got the kids on the bikes, they come up, they just absolutely rip through you. It's just absolutely appalling. And why is this? Because we have got unqualified councillors running the show. We have got people who have got no experience whatsoever in urban road planning running a bloody project. I'm really bloody angry, so should you be. Right, so one of our calmer, kinder neighbours I managed to get Biggs and Tomlinson, the two architects, Mayor Biggs and Councillor Tomlinson, round to our area to show them what they've done and to ask them how they think things could be improved. And one of the comments somebody said to John Biggs was, ambulance couldn't get through here, could it? And he looked around and went, I guess it could mount the pavement. He said, I guess it could mount the pavement.
Shame on the scum.
So what's happening is, these councillors and councils and indeed government are catering to a group of people that are new to our areas. Okay, the London Cycling Lobby has spent 20 years getting into positions of power with these people, and it need not have been like this. Had Labour worked with us, had actually sat down with us and planned, as we did ask at the very beginning, it would have been different. They should have had citizens panels. They should have asked us, who know our areas, what to do. Now, I won't go on for too long. It won't surprise you to know that I've been thrown out of the Labour Party. And the reason for that was, I spoke to Sean Bailey and was videoed, spoke to him about the absolute disgrace that Tower Hamlets is. I didn't say I supported him. I got thrown out because apparently I support the Tory party, but do you know what? I don't want to belong to that club. I really don't. In the East End, we have all come together from all over the world for very many generations, and generally, if the feeling has been, I think, if you don't piss on my patch, I won't piss on yours, and we'll all rub along together. Would you say that was fair? So what we've got now are a group of people who only want their patch. They want us to live like their patch, and basically it's destroying us, and we have to stop it. So what do I think the way forward is? Lobbying, writing, demonstrations like this. We are possibly going to have to start blocking off roads. I don't know, we have to really think about this together. What they should have done was actually improved and cheapened public transport first, then thought about what to do afterwards. And we need a London-wide plan. In the very small city of Barcelona, they are wanting to make it car-free at the centre. How long are they spending on it? 10 years. They're talking to people, they're getting citizens panels, they're talking to the people that know their streets. So what are we going to do? We have to probably hold our noses in May 2022 and find out who in their manifestos will agree to rip up these ridiculous schemes and vote them out. That is the only really efficient way. And finally, because I will go on all day, I want to say to Hackney, good luck and well done for getting a court case. Let us wish them the very, very best, and thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
It's the fantastic Sean Paul Day, who I'm sure you know from Ludicrous Road Closures. Done so well today.
Thank you, that really sets me up for a fall, doesn't it? I'll tell you something else as well. Don't feel responsible for causing a commotion in the town hall today, because it pales into comparison to the commotion they're causing us on a daily basis. This is representation of the community as we know it. They don't understand what it's like to be working class. We understand it here. Now, I often repeat myself, but I am usually told that the reason I do not like LTNs is because I simply do not like change. Think about that for a moment. People who don't even know you, and actually people who don't even have a relationship with London, feel like they can tell you what you should and shouldn't like. It is not me being told what I shouldn't like that I mind so much. But what I cannot stand is policies that are ushered in that create social injustice. That is what I cannot stand. I cannot stand inequity and discrimination against the elderly, the frail, the wheelchair dependent, those with sensory conditions, and those who are just trying to go about their daily business, like carers and transport providers. That's what I cannot stand. I cannot stand the way people are told that they have to put up with displaced traffic from side roads with high car ownership onto residential main roads where people are already suffering from illegal levels of pollution. That's what I cannot stand. I cannot stand the way tradespeople are told that they should be vilified or demonised or targeted just for expressing their concerns of the impact on their business. That's what I cannot stand. We are not political underlings controlled by the political elite. Now, I labour this point quite often because what we have now, what we are left with essentially, is a tale of two cities. We are left with a tale of two Ealings, of two Lewishams, of two Chiswicks, of two Lambeths, of two Greenwiches, absolutely two Tower Hamlets, of two Camdens, of two Enfields, most certainly a tale of two Islingtons, and absolutely a tale of two Hackneys. And any politician that thinks it's okay to divide our communities should not be in the positions they are in today. They have literally picked local people up, they've turned them upside down and smashed them on their heads, and that to me is an abomination. You're alright, my friend. You're alright, my friend. Your euros are on the side there. We are now faced with a finite period of time, but we still have options. We need to up the ante as far as direct action goes. We need to shout from the rooftops that the democratic process has been subverted, emergency legislation has been abused, consultations have been denied, and equality impact assessments have been overridden, and that is a disgrace. We need to consolidate our resources and fund Hackney road closures legal route. We need to redress the balance here. UTAG is fighting on many fronts, and only last week did we have 3 judges who saw fit to override a decisive verdict in the High Court. It took 3 judges to re-institutionalise discrimination into the system, and that is shameful. And like the previous speaker said, we need to mobilise and ensure that we have credible alternatives to stand against the incumbents at the next local elections in May 22. We need to come together now. I really don't care who you think is to blame here. I don't care whether it's Tory cash or Labour implementation, because the fact is, when the boot is on your throat, it matters not if it is the left foot or the right foot, the end result is the same. Your voices are heard, your concerns are dismissed, and from today we say no, we will not go quietly into the night. Thank you, and God bless. Thank you for letting me speak. Thank you, Hackney.
Moving on, we've got John Cronin, who we welcome from South London, who's former London Assembly candidate for the Reform Party and an anti-road closure campaigner and a dustman.
Low traffic neighbourhoods are a bad joke. Is it low traffic when there are queues of cars and vans set idling and choking the air? Is it low traffic when outside people's homes cars are parked onto the few roads left open? Is it low traffic for people desperate to get their lives going again, stuck in those queues? Low traffic is like the Ministry of War being called the Ministry of Love. LTN does not stand for low traffic neighbourhood. No, LTN stands for long queues of traffic neighbourhood. London wants to get going again. Londoners want to get their lives going again. Instead, we're being strangled by LTNs. For many Londoners, every time they hear LTN, they grind their teeth and their blood pressure rises. Supporters of LTN say, you don't need a car in London, but they are wrong. What if you're running a business? You have to get yourself, your staff and equipment to several different sites in the day. What if you're disabled and need to get a supermarket or to work or a medical appointment? What if you have elderly relatives to visit or transport, or a school run that is not local? What if you need a car to commute to one of those difficult to reach places? What if you need that taxi to get there on time? Well, let's face it, London is one of those places where the ordinary people most affected by LTNs don't have much say. The professional middle classes dominate social, cultural and political life in London.
Yes.
The political parties are all geared up, Labour, Lib Dems, Greens and the Tories, to their concerns. These middle classes are well organised and vocal. Number one for them is being in an LTN puts house prices up. Why? Because of demand. Because of the fantasy of living in the village. Because of the dream of living in the countryside in London. But we're not living in the village. We're in a city. We're in one of the world cities. Many of the professional classes can easily work from home or cycle or commute to a desk job. They'll be okay. They'll let the delivery drivers take the strain. London is geared up to ignore ordinary people. Take the fiasco around cladding. Many have been left out to dry. You've seen the news. The cladding replacement bills are sometimes bigger than the value of the flats being repaired. People can be ignored even when their lives are being destroyed. With cladding, it was supposedly for the environment, but people's safety was ignored. Now people's financial futures are being ignored. And so you can see the political class in London is very ready, even happy to sacrifice your time, your livelihoods, to ignore your difficulties. So what can we do? We need to make our voices heard in a way that can't be ignored. They would love to ignore and dismiss us. Who are those people that need cars? Who are those scruffy lot that want to live in this city? So we need to keep on campaigning. We need to keep being more vocal and be better organised than our opponents. But even more, we have to set our sights on shaking up London's political landscape. We have to shake up middle-class complacency, smugness and scorn for the rest of us. We have to move past established parties. We have to support other parties or independents or grassroots campaigns. Okay, I'm from Reform UK and I'll keep on campaigning on LTNs and keep trying to give ordinary people a voice again. Thank you for your time.
Gary, you got your own mic up here. Yes, I have my own mic. Let's turn it up a bit so you can hear me. Right. I'm mostly one of the loudest ones as well, just like Sean. Alright, hello. Who said that? Hello, gorgeous. Hello. Right, so basically I want to start out by saying, who's here from Islington? Come on, a bit better than that. Come on, a bit better. Woo! What about Hackney? What about you lot? You friendly? Come on, give us a cheer. They were miserable, come on. What about Hamlets? Yeah, that's looking better than last time. It's looking better than last time. What about Cricklewood? There they are, look, it. Come forward. So basically, right, okay. Oh, Harrow as well, Harrow. Hang on a minute, I've forgotten one more as well, Camden. Lambeth. Bloody hell, we're all here today, aren't they? That's what we like to say. Now you see, the thing is, what's going to happen when you go onto these community groups? They're going to turn around and say we've got a right poor turnout. Can you see that? Can you see that? Come on, get it loud, I want to hear it. That's it. You see, the thing is, since last year when I started this all up myself in Islington, with the help of a few people, okay, Sean over there, as you can hear, give him a round of applause for Sean Paul Day. The man is an absolute oracle. He's the oracle. Okay, so when we started this last year, we was massive, absolutely massive. Since the lockdown, it's messed up our movements of doing demonstrations. But we're back now. And the Hackney Council, the Islington Council, Camden Council, any other council you want to hear that are actually implementing these changes to our roads, they need to start listening that we're coming. And we are coming. It might not look like it sometimes because we're weak at the moment. If you look at us now, this is power. This is power that, you know what, you never even knew you had. You need to use that power in a real good way, and that's come out, demonstrate every single time. So, as I say, I'm happy to be here today. I'm happy to have got up and had a little word. I will fight the corner for Islington every single day, as I have done in the past. And I want to give you all a round of applause, so if you can all put your hands together, just a round of applause for everybody in here. Bit louder! Woo! I'm going to pass the mic over there because I'm hogging it a little bit too much. So, Niall? Yeah, great. Oh, sorry. I want to thank Niall as well for letting us join his demo. And Danny, where's Danny? Danny, come up here, come here. Come on! Get up here. Martin Perks, come on Martin, up here. Sean Paul Day. All of us. I want all of the actual admins from the groups. Hey, Sheba, come on. Shiva! Shiva! Come on! Quickly! Come on, Sean!
Hold up, I've just walked 4 miles.
That's alright, don't you worry, Sean. Kerry, all up here, come on. I want every one of the admins to come up here who have made this happen today. Come on. Not just us. All of them, where are you? And I want the stewards, I want everyone to thank the stewards after. There will be not enough room up here for all of us. But I want to thank each and every one of these here. What we have here are a team of dedicated residents. And I'm telling you, if it wasn't for these people, this wouldn't be happening. No, listen, let me tell you something. I could never have done any of this without any of you lot. I couldn't have done none of this. Like, I can't do nothing without these guys here. So, I want a big round of applause. That's it! All of you. I want you all to understand, this isn't going away, and neither are we, and until it does go away, that's when we will go away. I want to thank you for all of them. A round of applause. Big one! Come on, big, big, big! Shout!
My battery's gone. Can you hear me? Up next up we've got Bill Parry Davies, who is...
Is Bill?
Bill is the solicitor who's dealing with the case. The Hackney residents are taking the council to court and Bill is assisting us. We have a court case being seen in the High Court of Justice on the 30th, isn't it? I'm going to pass it across and he's going to tell you a little bit of information about the case, yeah?
Thank you, Shiva. Thank you, Shiva. Bill Parry Davies. I'm a solicitor. I'm acting for the Hackney campaign. I'm actually honoured to be representing this campaign because it is a campaign against social injustice. It's a campaign against environmental injustice. This is a campaign that has raised a petition of over 16,000 signatures, requiring Hackney to withdraw these road closures and have a proper public consultation. It has a Facebook campaign of over 7,200 members, and it has raised a substantial amount of money to fight this case. These cases are very, very difficult. Only 25% of these types of cases win, judicial review cases win. And people say to me, Bill, why are you taking on these cases? There's no money in it. You're going to lose. But it is a battle for environmental justice and social justice. I first got interested in this issue about 15 years ago. I was asked by a community in Wapping to investigate and represent them in a case concerning a new development called the London Dock. And in the London Dock, the Tower Hamlets Council had voted to allow a huge development where the social housing and the new school was right next to the highway. The highway is one of the busiest roads in that part of London. And at about that time, King's College University was doing a massive survey of children in Tower Hamlets, the children who lived on the social housing estates closest to the highway. And what it found was that those children had greater incidences of asthma, of chronic bronchitis, of poor growth of their lungs, and multiple illnesses that caused them lifetime deprivation. And the Wapping community said to Tower Hamlets Council, why are you allowing this school to be built right on the highway when it was originally planned to be away from the highway closer to the river? And the explanation for that was that the houses closer to the river with the clean air and the river views are for private residents. That was the explanation. And we issued a court action, and I took advice from 2 different barristers, and the barristers said, look, you cannot win this action because the councillors knew what they were doing. It was deliberate. And that was 15 years ago. And I felt at that time this was a case of social injustice, and I remember that case when Shiva first approached me to see what I thought about this campaign. The second time I got involved was when, about 6 years ago, the London Cycling Group and TfL and Hackney Council decided to make a cycleway across London Fields, through the London Fields community, out onto Middleton Road to the west. They had a consultation and 70% of the local residents objected to that proposal. And the local residents association, 4 of them instructed me, and I said what we need to do is get an independent traffic consultant's report. And that traffic consultant found that if Hackney were to implement those 13 road closures in London Fields, it would have a severe impact on local schools. Because as you probably know from your own experience, most of the large local schools in Hackney, where the children go and walk to get to those schools, are on main roads.
Yes.
Most of the major housing estates and social housing and dense housing estates in Hackney are on the main roads.
It's a disgrace.
So eventually Hackney backed down 5 years ago about those 13 road closures in London Fields. But last year, when they decided to implement LTNs, the leader of the cabinet dealing with environmental issues called those 70% of local residents who objected, he called them a minority of bullies. A minority of bullies had stopped that injustice, and the council last year implemented 32 road closures, including the road closures in London Fields, without any consultation and apparently without any regard to the injustice, the social inequality and the environmental inequality that those road closures would cause.
Shame!
Shame on Hackney!
Shame!
3 years ago, I have a film of the Mayor of Hackney, and he had just implemented some road closures in Stoke Newington that had increased the level of pollution around a local school. And he said, we've done studies in 2018-19, and we want all of Hackney's neighbourhoods to be low traffic, cycling, walking neighbourhoods. And he'd done studies about it, and that was the plan. That was the plan 18 months before the COVID pandemic, 18 months before they received government guidance which said you must try and improve conditions for walking and cycling for local residents. So it was a plan in long gestation. When I heard that, a year ago, 9 months ago, I made a Freedom of Information Act request. I said to Hackney, please let me have a copy of the studies of motor traffic that you've done. Please let me have the studies of the air quality impact and the congestion impact. That was in September of last year. They ignored my Freedom of Information request. They say they're a council that wants transparency and doesn't object to public scrutiny, but only last week did I get that information from Hackney. So I passed that information to an independent traffic consultant who's now made a report, and you can see that report on the Hackney campaign website. And what that report found was that Hackney's claims to have reduced traffic, that LTNs have reduced traffic on the main roads in Hackney is not accurate. It says, the report from this independent consultant says, Hackney's collection and analysis of traffic evidence is of a low standard. It said that TfL's own data and Hackney residents' videos that you'll find on the website show that although traffic was lower during the period of the pandemic, congestion was higher. The overall volume of traffic was lower, but congestion was higher. And the fourth conclusion of the traffic consultant's report is that the increased congestion on our main roads gives rise to higher pollution because idling vehicles produce greater emissions. And those emissions are affecting the residents and the pedestrians in the dense housing, the local schools, the shops, and at the bus stops on the main road.
It's all
Hackney
manufactured
are
traffic.
poisoning our pedestrian corridors with this policy. My personal view is that while Hackney claim to be trying to reduce car mileage has in many cases increased. Because instead of being able to take the shortcuts, the cars now have to take the long way round.
Absolutely.
That long way round means more driving, more emissions, more pain for people who are disabled having to sit in traffic queues. So in my view, LTNs are not a war on cars. They are a war on pedestrians. They are a war on people with disabilities. They are a war on the people who live in the dense housing along these main roads. This housing is cheaper than the leafy, rarefied air of London fields. And who is it who can only afford the cheaper housing in the most polluted areas on the main roads? You can answer that question yourself. Three months ago, we made our first application to the High Court, and the judge refused the application. And so I was instructed to appeal. And we did appeal. We said we have a good argument on our case. And Lord Justice Bean in the High Court said, yes, you have a reasonable argument on 4 of your grounds that you challenge Hackney's policy. On the grounds of the increase in congestion, on the grounds of the increase in pollution, on the grounds of discrimination and the increased inequality which this is creating, and on the grounds of the lack of consultation. And that case is coming up for a 2-day trial next Wednesday. But although we've got an arguable case, that doesn't mean we have a winnable case. There are 1,300 pages of documents. There's a 2-day trial set aside. I've got 2 barristers working on it. So please help. We've had to employ a traffic consultant at great expense. Please put your hands in your pockets and please cross your fingers.
Yeah, there's people
And
coming
toes.
around with buckets, and please donate towards the cause anything
Thank
that
you
you
very
can
much, Phil.
afford. It's much appreciated for our barristers and solicitors.
I hope you do us proud on Wednesday. Thank you. We've still got some great speakers coming up. So can I appeal to speakers to keep it brief, 3-4 minutes at the most. Next we've got Martin Burks, who's an Islington resident, one of the people who helped organise this whole thing, and he's a former election candidate in the Bunhill area for the last elections along with me.
Right, thank you. First of all, I just want to say what a fantastic, lively, noisy demonstration today's been. Exactly what we want. Now, I'm going to keep this short and sweet, but I want to start off by first of all saying I'm here to defend the city. I'm here to defend the city as a busy, noisy, sometimes polluted place. However, it's a brilliant place where we all come together across our 3 boroughs and more to cross-fertilise ideas, challenge each other, engage in debate and discussions like this. This is what the city's about. It's not a tame place. So I think that's why I'm here. And the other thing is, I mean, quite simply, I'm here to defend the idea of freedom. Really simply. Because we need, more than ever, freedom to have control over our lives. Freedom to question ideas, to protest. And I think at the moment, none of these things are made very easy by the authorities in that town hall behind us. The elected politicians who do one thing and obviously do other things in their offices, unfortunately caught on camera. Freedoms that are fundamental to us are vanishing quickly. However, today there are at least 10,000, I would like to say 100,000 people marching West London in the city for freedom. And that is a fantastic thing. They are marching to remove the COVID restrictions after so long. They are marching to demand life comes back to normal. We need that. And if it doesn't surprise you for me to say so, we are doing exactly the same today. We are marching through Hackney, Islington and Tower Hamlets to demand life comes back to normal. We are demanding freedom to be normal again, pre-COVID. That means no more road closures. We need everyone to return to pre-COVID life. And that means we need to do everything we can to support how people, lives, communities and relationships even can get back to normal that have been decimated for the last 15 or so months. That has been an incredibly bad moment for everybody. However, as it won't surprise you to think this, those who support road closures are actually having none of that idea of freedom. Apart from patronising us, belittling us, and even ignoring us, they want us to remain in lockdown. In effect, what they are doing is locking us in with their blocked roads and closures. We need to do as much as we can again to oppose being locked in. Because it begs the question, whose side are they on? Are they on the side of the people like us who want their freedom back? Or are they on the side who want us to suffer more after 15 months of COVID? Whose side are we on? We're on the side of freedom. And remember, freedom matters a great deal in a city like London. Historically, it was built on the idea of freedom, on the idea of people being able to mix together, to travel and wander where they choose, and freedom to choose how we want to live together. But if we don't defend freedom, the authorities will think they've won. They will continue to think they know what's best for us. And of course, they choose to live their lives one way and tell us how we must conform to what they decide for us in their rules and regulations. They even think that restricting our freedom means more choices. Fine if you're a kid who wants to play in the street, but that is not fine at all if you're an adult who wants to go about your life in London like you should be able to. That is not a choice that we deserve. And just remember the paradox of road closures. Just when lockdown, the moment of lockdown is nearly over after nearly 15 odd months, when our freedoms are nearly back to normal, what do councils want to do? They want to keep us locked in. That is the paradox of road closures, and that is why we must oppose it at every moment. Just think about that. They are out to stop life from getting back to normal. They are wanting to, through road closures, hitting communities and businesses and people and families from ever recovering from the harsh realities of COVID and lockdown. That to me is a paradox that we deserve to protest about again and again at every moment when we encounter it. That, if it's no surprise to you, is not the kind of freedom I can live with. And that's why I will continue to support our road closure campaigns, and that is why I'm going to encourage everyone who wants to next year in the mayoral elections to come and join us as independent candidates to take on these bureaucrats who do not represent us. Thank you.
Brilliant stuff, Martin. Thank you very much. Next, time is ticking on. So next we have a man who's made quite a name for himself, although I don't actually know his name, but goes by the name of Little Ninja.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's David Smith. Some of you may know me better as Little Ninja UK. It's a campaign I set up to protect my son's young lungs and lungs of Londoners, especially the children. It's about 4 years now. Now, I'm here to talk about social injustice of low traffic neighbourhoods, but I have to admit that what we've heard so far from Sean, from Bill, from everybody else who's come up here, actually covered up a huge amount of what I've got to say, so you've saved yourselves from listening to me for 15 minutes. I can crank it down. In terms of air pollution, I think it's really important to recognise now that officially, by law, we know that people die from air pollution. We've got the young Elikasa Deborah, it's there on a death certificate, that air pollution kills. Now, for the last 4 years, I've been doing what I can, campaigning, trying to raise awareness of the impact of air pollution on children's health. We know that where air pollution is highest, is on main roads. There's no doubt about that anymore. It's on main roads. The experts are telling us that's where they get their largest air pollution exposure. When? It's during the school run, 5 times higher than at any other time of the day. And also when they're at school, because the schools are generally on the main roads or near to the main roads, while 90% of people live on side roads. So in terms of where we're getting our air pollution exposure for adults as well, when we're on the school run, when we're working, your bus drivers, your street cleaners, the people in the shops, it's on main roads.
Shameful.
Now, we've been campaigning for years and years saying we need to do something to reduce that. We've got things like the red routes in London. 5% of the road network takes 30% of the traffic. That's massive. And the impact it's having is illegal levels of air pollution so high that children who breathe it have up to 14% reduced lung capacity. And so you know, that's like an egg-sized chunk missing out of their lungs, and it's irreplaceable, it's irreparable. And that's what our children are facing. Children in buggies and babies down here at the height of the exhaust pipes. And that's what they're breathing. So the last thing we need to do is in any way increase air pollution on these roads, increase congestion. And Bill mentioned congestion. It's really important that we understand what congested traffic actually means. When you see a vehicle accelerating just to move forward a couple of feet, then it stops, and then it's idling. That idling, 1 minute, is like 150 balloons. So imagine a balloon 150 times the normal balloon. That's 1 minute filled with toxic gas. It's got things like cyanide in there. All right, toxic gas. It's carcinogenic group 1 like tobacco smoke. Yeah, it increases the risk of cancer and it stunts kids' lungs. And this is what our children are breathing. But it's not just 1 minute and 1 car. These are thousands of vehicles idling for 15, 20 minutes. So when we had the COVID emergency, and they looked to say, well, who's most affected? Guess what? It's the poor, and it's the black ethnic minority in London, particularly, but also across the UK. And they're dying, they're more likely to be infected, they're more likely to die from COVID-19. And then you say to yourself, okay, well, now we're going to do a COVID response. So what's the COVID response going to be? Because we know there's a link between air pollution and COVID. If you live in an area of high air pollution, you're more likely to be infected by a coronavirus, you're more likely to die from coronavirus. So when it comes time for your councils to do an emergency response, a COVID emergency response, it's got to be done with lowering air pollution on the main roads, because that's where people are most at risk. But instead, they close side roads. Instead, they say, we're going to introduce low traffic neighbourhoods. Now, if we go back 2 years, this will make a bit more sense of why they did that. Because I got a call a couple of years ago from parents in Stoke Newington saying, please help, the council are trying to close these 3 side roads to create a low traffic neighbourhood. We've got 3,500 children at the local schools and nurseries on the main road, and the experts say it's going to increase their air pollution exposure. And we know what that means. It means stunted lung growth, it means shorter life expectancy, maybe days, maybe weeks, maybe months, maybe years. For some children it's decades. It shortens life, there's no doubt about it now. And the council said, we're going to do that, even though the experts said don't. These mums got themselves on ITV News. They actually got the experts to say, this is going to increase asthma. We've got 1.1 million children with asthma in the UK, and a quarter of those is due to air pollution. And the council had to force to do a consultation. And you can guess what the consultation said. 70% said, on your way. No way you're doing a low traffic neighbourhood. Well done to the parents. Then, you get COVID-19, and the council turn around and they say, we're now going to impose this LTN and all the other LTNs that Bill's been talking about. We're just going to impose it now. Yeah? Your consultation doesn't matter. Your views, your desires, doesn't matter. Equality impact assessment, doesn't matter. Because they have the power that they can just impose this. This is a problem now. For everybody in London. Because when you get to the point where your voices don't mean shit, and I'll say the word, it don't mean jack. It don't mean nothing. 70% of you can say what you like, it doesn't matter. Because the small minority who've got the influence, who've got the power, can choose to do what they want. They got the academics to back it up and say, oh look at this, and do a little fiddle. They got the Guardian newspaper with reporters who are going to say, low traffic schemes benefit all, benefit everyone. Do low traffic schemes benefit everyone? Low traffic schemes benefit the most deprived in London. Do low traffic neighbourhoods benefit the most deprived in London? And yet, that's the headline in the Guardian newspaper, because that's the kind of power and influence this group have. Now, I am known as a clean air campaigner, because for 4 years I've been invited to House of Commons, City Hall, I've been on Sky News, BBC News, Victoria Derbyshire Show, and the list goes on, talking about clean air, talking about protecting our children. Yeah? And yet, as soon as I put my hand up and say, hold on, there looks to be a social injustice about low traffic neighbourhoods, bang. Doors, tunk, 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 closed. I used to be speaking maybe 20, 30 times a year. This is the second time I've had to speak. The first time I've been invited to speak was at Lambeth for this event, and now today. So thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you for letting me share my voice. Please keep it going. Big love.
Thank you very much. My name's Tim Briggs. Very fine. I'm the only Conservative councillor in Lambeth fighting LTNs. The whole of Lambeth. And the reality is that pretty much the only councillors, apart from the Reform Party in London, who are fighting LTNs are Conservative councillors. And I know that will upset a lot of you, but that is the reality. My starting point in all things is not political. Okay? My job is to represent the views of residents to the council. That is the job of a councillor, not to represent the decisions of the council to you lot. That isn't what councillors are supposed to do, but that is what the Labour councillors do. Now, there will be more walking and cycling in the next few years. There will be more walking and cycling, okay? But the argument for LTNs is circular. Because residents who say they want an LTN normally only want one because there's been another LTN put in nearby. So that's affected the traffic in their ward. So it's a circular argument. The more LTNs you put in, the more LTNs people say that they want. And if you are disabled, elderly, a carer, a key worker, you have a family that needs to go places, you have relatives outside London, and you want emergency services, LTNs will have had a massive impact on your life. Because LTNs benefit the few and not the many. And people on lower incomes tend to live near main roads, as David said, where rents are lower, and a greater number of them are black and ethnic minority. So these hypocrite Labour councillors are actually making things worse for the same people that they say that they want to help. Just think about that. Now, 5 months ago I wrote an article about how LTNs were affecting working class people in London. It's not just LTNs and road closures. Labour councillors in league with big property developers are displacing communities. It's not just the LTNs, it's like a perfect storm. London will keep closing down, bit by bit. And I've said before that if you think about London as the brain of our nation, and the flow of vehicles and traffic on the main roads, on the arterial roads are the blood, and on the capillaries that's like the smaller roads. LTNs are a kind of blood clot. They're a brain hemorrhage. That's what they're doing. They're just stopping the movement, the flow, the freedom, as one of our speakers said. They're stopping the freedom of people to move. Now,
Claire Holland is one of the councillors.
Let me just tell you quickly about what happened in Wandsworth before I finish, okay? Wandsworth had LTNs and 3 weeks later they got rid of them. Why did they get rid of them? Because they don't work? Because they had a proper survey. And in that survey, 84% of the people who responded said they didn't want LTNs. So the council got rid of them. So why can't Islington, Hackney and Tower Hamlets have a proper survey like Wandsworth had? Why can't they do that? Very simple. Why is it that in our boroughs we are always the last people to be asked, and it's always to justify decisions already taken? In Lambeth, just like we've heard from the other speakers, the council asks leading questions, uses dodgy data to justify imposing LTNs.
Yes.
And us residents, then we have to beg for them to be removed or changed. That's the wrong way round. So look, in summary, okay, there is hope, my friends. We're not going away, the traffic is not going away, the pollution is not going away. So what you have to do is go home to your families, go home to your friends, your neighbours, your work colleagues. Tell them not to vote for anyone who is pro-LTN in the elections next year. And I'm sorry to say, where I am, that's Labour, that's the Greens, that's the Lib Dems, that's all of them. Okay? And I will give you a guarantee here now, because I heard someone saying, which parties will guarantee to get rid of LTNs? And I give you a guarantee for Lambeth. I can't guarantee beyond that, because I'm the group leader in Lambeth. We will remove all LTNs the first day after we get into power, if we were to get into power. We would remove them and then have a consultation. All of them. We would then consult, which is the right way round. That's the right way round. You remove them and consult. You don't put them in and then say, oh, come and tell us why you don't want them. Okay? Okay. I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for your time.
From just across the border in Tower Hamlets, we've got Councillor Peter Gold, who again is a bit of a lone voice against low traffic neighbourhoods and road closures. Take it away. Try and keep it brief, and then we've got Thoroland.
Hi everybody, can you hear me? I'm Councillor Peter Gold, London Borough of Tower Hamlets. I'm one of the councillors from the Isle of Dogs. That's the bottom bit of the borough, but I've got a voice across the borough. And when I've been up to Bethnal Green, when I've been up to Bow, I have never seen anything like the way the community has come together to oppose this disastrous policy. If I cast my eye just to the left, and I don't usually like going to the left, I can see two people sitting in wheelchairs. How do they cope if they have to go in an emergency to a hospital and an ambulance has to come and get them through a planter? Now, you can do all sorts of things. You can write a letter to the Guardian, but what is it going to do? Because what they said in Tower Hamlets is, and I kid you not, what they said in Tower Hamlets, oh, the ambulance can go on the pavement. Well, how big is a bloody pavement? Think about it. How big is a pavement? Can you get an ambulance on it? And what happens if that person in a wheelchair needs an ambulance? If they need an ambulance and an ambulance is stuck on a pavement because one of Mayor John Biggs's £1,000 planters, and each planter costs the council taxpayer £1,000, is obstructing the road.
And they don't even water the flowers.
And they don't even water the flowers. But I can tell you something, the streets are open to everybody in antisocial behaviour, so you know how the flowers get watered. And it's not from a watering can that you or I would talk about in a family newspaper. No, friends and colleagues, this is a disastrous policy. It needs to be halted. In Ealing, the Labour group overthrew the Labour leader and he was ousted, and it stopped. In Harrow, the Labour group threatened to remove the Labour leader. The policy was stopped. In Wandsworth, they did a proper consultation. Now, let me tell you something, people of Hackney, something I said in Tower Hamlets at the beginning of the year. I became a councillor for the first time in 1990, that's a long time ago, and I sat on a planning and development committee. And there was a wise old councillor, a councillor had been there for years, and this councillor said to me, because I was young, I was enthusiastic, I listened to everybody saying what was going on, and this councillor said, when they talk about consultation, consultation means the decision is made. In Tower Hamlets, the people running the consultation were officers formerly from Waltham Forest who have been responsible for the infamous Little Holland scheme. Now, in Tower Hamlets, of course, Mayor John Biggs got terrified because he was going to put it in Whitechapel, But there was an uproar in Whitechapel because the three councillors for Whitechapel Ward were terrified they could lose to Tower Hamlets first next year. So Mayor Biggs withdrew that particular proposal. He kicked it into touch beyond the election of next year. But how much is this disastrous policy costing us all? I've got to go quickly. £29 million in Tower Hamlets. How many libraries is that? How many social workers is that? How much social care is that? How much could be done for all of you? Please do your best. Please support candidates against it and stand up and fight as they did in Ealing and Harrow and join against it.
Before I forget, Gary just said that there are some LRC t-shirts down here. Please don't rush. Come see us at the end and we might be able to sort you out with them. Thank you to everyone who has donated towards the court case. Apparently not everyone can give cash, but you can make donations on our website. So please see anyone with the yellow t-shirts if you need more information or instructions about to do that. Again, thank you to all our speakers, thank you to everyone, and last but not absolutely not least, Borough of London, who ran such a brilliant campaign and really won a lot of friends and respect right across London. So we're really honoured to have you back. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. Now, there can be no victory without a battle. And that's why we are here today. We are here to fight social injustices. Now, I know we have gathered all over London, but we are not only here for Islington and Hackney, we are here to fight for London, fight for the rights of London. Now, we have seen LTNs have been removed in other boroughs, and that's why I am confident, like a domino effect, it will be removed in Islington and Hackney and the other boroughs as well. But we need to stick together, fight together. Yes, Tower Hamlets, Enfield, Lambeth, all of them. They will be removed. But we can only do it if we all come together, stick together and fight together. Now, when the elections are coming up, I urge you, please stand up amongst yourselves, appoint a leader or independents and represent your community. You need to be sitting at that table. You do not need the politicians there. You should be there representing the community. Now, I was in Stamford Hill 2 days ago because 1 week ago they introduced road closures. Now, I met with Joseph, who represents the local Orthodox Jewish community. Now, he told me the community has bought 100 vans which are low emissions to do school runs, and they drop off 3,000 children every day. Now, they are trying to help the environment to make sure it's greener and cleaner. But guess what the council's doing? Hackney Council. They are not giving them access. They are not giving them the access that they need. They are playing games with them, which means that those children will have to be dropped off by the parents, which will increase car pollution and increase traffic. So why are they not? Why is Hackney Council not giving access? Because they do not care about communities and they do not care about cleaner air. It's a hidden agenda, and that's why we must fight together, because if we do not keep this fight going, we will start losing battles one by one. So thank you very much. We're all here together. Keep the fight going.
It's 4 o'clock, so what a great way to spend a Saturday afternoon with our friends and our neighbours. You know, this is part one. Let's put our heads together and see what we can do next. Obviously, we've got the court case coming up on Wednesday. There's a full council meeting here coming up as well. So the councillors will be back here on Wednesday. Yeah, that's it. Thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for everybody who's organising. 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock to the pub, everybody. No, the council meeting. I don't know. Not sure what time the full council meeting is. I would have thought it was about 7. Please donate, and yeah, see us if you want to donate online. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dave. Really proud of you.